What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kilo Loco, and today we're going to be working with Flutter. So we're coming in at day 28 of hashtag 30 days of Flutter, and we're going to be working on the social media feed. We're going to be working on the home feed where we're showing all the different posts, and we're going to be specifically focusing on building up the UI. So we're going to be covering all that in this video, and we're going to pick up right where we left off from the profile. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So as you can see, we're right here at the profile. This is the last thing that we fully built out, and everything is working with our user. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to toggle between two different tabs. We want to be able to see the home feed, and we want to be able to see the user profile. So those are going to be tabs in a navigation view at the bottom of the screen, right? Now let's go ahead and start by building out a new bottom navigation view widget. So I'm going to create a new file called bottom navigation view. All right, so as you can see, we have our bottom nav bar view, which is a brand new stateless widget, and all we're doing so far is building out a scaffold, which is going to have a bottom navigation bar. Now we're adding in a bottom navigation bar with just some of these basic arguments, just so that we can make sure that all those complaints go away. So we have the current index, which is going to be 0. You know, as soon as you sign in, it's going to open up to the first screen, whatever that index is going to be. Whenever we tap on one of those tabs, one of those bottom tabs, then we need to fire off some type of action. We're going to be updating our state using this function. And then we have the items. So the items are going to be which views we actually want to show for the bottom tabs. So in here, let's go ahead and add in some bottom navigation items, which are going to be the home and the profile. So now we have two bottom navigation bar items in our bottom navigation bar. Both of them are going to have an icon, and both of them are going to have a label underneath it. So the first one is going to be the home icon with the word home underneath it, and then the second one is going to be the person icon with the word profile underneath it. From here, what we want to do is we want to update the functionality of this on tap and the current index. Right now we're just hard coding 0. That means that whenever we tap one of these icons, one of these bar items, nothing's going to happen because the on tap is doing nothing with this index. So let's go ahead and create a bottom nav bar qubit so that we can keep track of the state of this widget, and we can do that in a separate file. All right, so here's our bottom nav bar qubit. It's gonna take in an integer. We don't need to worry about different events. We're just gonna simply pass some type of integer to it, hang on to that value as our state, and then whenever we call this select tab, it will update our state. So this is how we're gonna actually keep track of which tab is selected. Now we can go back over to our bottom nav bar view, and we can provide the bottom nav bar qubit in one of our block providers, and then we can reference that state from a block builder. So let's add that in now. Now that we've created our bottom nav bar qubit instance and given it to our block provider, we can use it in a block builder, which we're doing right here on line 10. And we know that we're going to be working with a bottom nav bar qubit, and its state is going to be an integer. So now when we access the state, it will be the integer of whatever index is selected. So we can go ahead and update the current index right here to be the index that, or the state, which we are provided by our block builder. So we can pass in state right here. And then for the on tap, what we can do is we can simply read the context for our bottom nav bar qubit, and then we can call select tab so that we can update the state. So now whenever we tap on one of the items in our bottom navigation bar, it will update which index is selected right here. So when we tap 0, it's going to update the state for our qubit, and then we'll show this 0 index, and that one will be selected. And then, the same thing goes on for all the other bar items we decide to put in here, which is just going to be those 2. Next, what we need to do is make sure that we show the correct content whenever we select one of these bar items. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to add a child to the scaffold, and that child is going to be an indexed stack. Now, an index stack is perfect for navigation because what we want to do is we want to select one of the bottom tabs and show the correct view, right? So when we select home, we want to see the home. When we select the profile, we see the profile. Now, let's say we're scrolling down lower on the screen of the home feed, and then we show the profile, and then we go back to the home feed. Well, if we didn't use an indexed stack, then what would happen is we would essentially rebuild the home screen, and we would start all the way at the top. So we wouldn't keep track of the user's progress as they continue to scroll. And we want to make sure that functionality is implemented. So let's go ahead and add an indexed stack to our scaffold. Now here we go. The body for the scaffold is going to be this indexed stack. We know that the index is going to be the same as the bottom navigation bar index, so we're going to be using state here as well. As for the children, we know what the children are going to be. We know the first one is going to be the home feed, which we haven't created yet, and then the second one is going to be the profile view. So we can go ahead and add in profile view right here, but this isn't necessarily going to work correctly because right now it's the first and only child in our indexed stack, and we need to have 2. So before we start building and running and checking this thing out, let's go ahead and build out a home view. So I created this simple home view, which is just going to have an app bar at the top, which is going to say My Social App, and then we have some text in the center of the screen. This will allow us to just check to make sure that the implementation for the bottom navigation bar is actually working whenever we tap something. So we have profile view in here. I'm adding in the home view as well, and here we go, home view like that. And now we should be able to actually run the app and make sure that this is going to work. Now, before we do that, we actually have to implement it, right? So we have the bottom nav bar view, but we haven't implemented it into our app navigation, our app navigator. So right now we're just straight away showing the profile view. And what we actually want to do is show the bottom nav view. There we go. So as long as we're authenticated, we're going to show the bottom nav bar view, which is going to be responsible for showing the correct screen. Let's go ahead and run the app and see what happens. All right, so our app is up and running, and as you can see, it opens up to the home view. And when we select profile, let's see, it looks like it is not going to the profile view. So it looks like I probably made a mistake. Let's go back over here to select tab. And as you can see, we're doing select tab, but we're not actually passing in the index. Let's go ahead and pass in that index. We'll save it. And now if we tap the profile, let's see if we can get it to switch, and perfect, it does switch, and we can see that our profile is already loaded for us and everything, and we can switch back and switch back. So everything looks like it's working so far, so good. Next, let's go ahead and work on the home view, which is going to be our social media feed where we're able to scroll through all the different pictures and see all the things that people have posted. So I'm going to go back over to home view. Now let's go ahead and start building out a list view using a builder and start getting this UI populated. All right, so as you can see, we have updated the UI by using this post list view. I'm gonna break out each of the UI elements into different functions and build them up slowly. This way we can see exactly what's going on in each part of the UI. And if we need to go back and adjust something, it'll be much easier to pinpoint exactly where that change needs to take place. So far in the post list view, I'm using a list view builder just because I know that we're going to be using a builder because we're going to have dynamic content in the future. But right now we're just going to give it a hard coded item count of 3, and then we're going to just give it a bunch of text that says hello so far. Next, let's go ahead and start building out the actual post UI, a single individual post UI, so then we can start seeing an image and some of the details around that post. All right, so I've worked on a lot of different UI code so far, and I just wanted to take a stop and show you what I've covered so far, just so that nothing gets too confusing as we continue to build out this UI. So we still have the post list view showing this hello. What we want to do is update it to show this post view, right? Just post view. It's going to be essentially representing what each of our posts look like. So instead of returning text that says hello, I'll change this to post view. From there, we're going to have a column. And the reason why we're going to do a column is if you think about a post, it usually has a column of different content. Usually you have the user's name and their avatar at the top. You have the content right there, the main content of whatever they wrote right there in the center. And then usually something like the comments or something like that below it. So you're working in the column, even though some of the content goes, left and right, like the avatar and the username. So to represent that specific thing, we have something called a post author row, which is doing exactly what I had just explained, which is going to be the avatar and the username. Now, let me go over what we're doing for the avatar just so that it looks a specific way. We're starting off with a diameter that we're going to use for the avatar. It's going to be 44. And then what we want to do is we want to start off by having some padding so that the avatar isn't touching the sides of the post. Then we wrap that in a container, and we're going to set the container's width and height to that avatar, dimensions. Then we decorate the container, and inside of that container, we're going to have a clipped R rect, and that allows us to have that circle radius, kind of like what we did for our profile. I have a dummy URL, which I have up here for our avatar. There's another dummy URL, which is for the dummy image. And then we're gonna finish it all off with a box fit. To the right of that avatar is gonna be the username, and it's gonna look a particular way. So what we can do is for the post view, the first child in the column is going to be this post author row. And when we save it, we should be able to see that our UI updates, and now we can see that there's an avatar and there's going to be a username associated with it. Next, let's go ahead and add in the main content, which is going to be the image that they posted. So we now have two new functions. The first one's going to be the post image. The second one is going to be the post caption. Let's go over post image. We're going to wrap this in an aspect ratio, keeping everything square. We want to make sure that our images, when they're posted, they're square. It makes it much easier to keep our scrolling much more consistent this way, as opposed to having dynamic height. We can cover dynamic height content in a scroll view in a different video. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our cached network image in order to display our dummy image. And then for the post caption, once again, we're going to take advantage of padding, making sure that we have nice white space in between our content. And then we're going to just have some text inside of that caption. So obviously this will all be provided by the instance of the post, but we'll cover that in the next video. Let's go ahead and add these two functions or instances of these functions into the post view. So we want to have the post image, and then we also want to have the post caption. When we save that, we have our UI starting to come together and everything's starting to look a little bit closer to an actual social networking app, right? So we see that we have our username up here, we have the avatar, and then whatever post is right there. The caption, whatever the user decided to include for their caption. And next, all we really need to do is add, just a little bit more, which would be essentially like the comments, but everything seems to be looking pretty good so far. So lastly, let's go ahead and add in those post comments. So next we have this post comments button, and this is a function that is going to create a text that has a gesture detector wrapped around it so that we can detect whenever it receives a tap, and we can do some functionality. We're not going to be displaying comments directly on the post feed. What we're actually going to be doing is making this a button so that whenever the user taps on view comments, they'll actually be taken to the next screen, which will list all of the comments for this post. So let's go ahead and add in the post comments button to our post view, post comments button like so. And let's go ahead and save that. And now we should see that our UI updates with this view comments button. And whenever we tap it, whatever functionality that we have in here is actually going to be fired. So with all that said, we know that we have to implement some navigation into our home view, and we have to be able to take the user into the author's profile view, right? Whenever we tap on this, we need to show the author's profile. And then whenever we tap on view comments, we need to take the user into the comments view. So let's start by implementing the navigation for the author, since we already have the profile view built out. First, we need to implement some type of state change for this navigation, and we're going to do that with a home navigator object. So let's go down to home and create that home navigator. So here we have our home navigator, and this is going to act just like any of the other navigators that we built previously, where we have this navigator 2.0 object. We're going to pass in a couple of different pages, but we're going to start off with the home view. The home view is always going to be the root view for our home navigator, right? Home, then go to profile, home, then go to the comments view, things like that. So what we want to do in here is we want to have the logic of when to actually display these different things. So we will always be showing the home view as the base of the stack, and then we'll just continue to add on top of that stack based off of the conditions that are applied to our app. Now, what we want to do in order to actually have this work so far is make sure that we're showing home navigator from our app navigator as opposed to just, or from our bottom nav bar, I'm sorry, as opposed to just the home view. So we're going to do home navigator right here in the bottom nav bar view. So home navigator. So this is all set and ready to go. We're actually going to be seeing our home navigator, but nothing's changed because we're only showing the home view so far. Next, let's go ahead and start building out the qubit for our home navigator. So we actually want to have our home navigator qubit, which is going to be responsible for keeping track of the state of the navigation. So let's add that now. So our home navigator qubit is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to take in a home navigator state. It's going to simply keep track of this enum, which is home, profile, or comments. So whenever we update that state, it's going to be one of those three. Now we're going to have a couple of functions which are going to make it really easy to understand what's going on. So we'll be able to call show profile, and it's just simply going to emit this as the new state. Same thing for comments, same thing for home. Now, if we head back over to our home navigator right here, what we can do is we can use a block provider and a block builder in order to use the home navigator qubit as a way to know what should be displayed to the screen. All right, so as you can see, we have our block provider, which is creating the home navigator qubit. We're going to be using that home navigator qubit inside of our block builder, and we're going to also be accessing its state. Then, using the navigator, we're going to always have the home view at the bottom of the stack, And then based off of the state, we're going to determine if it's the profile, we're going to put the profile view on top of that stack. If it's the comments, then we're going to put a comments view on top of that stack. Now we don't have a comments view yet. We have to build that out. So let's go ahead and create a new folder that's going to be responsible for holding all of our comments functionality. All right, so now we have our basic comments view. We need to build out the UI for this comments view because it's going to be responsible for listing out all the different comments that are associated with the post that we tapped. So let's go ahead and start by creating a comments list view. All right, so we have our comments list view. It's gonna be just like we did for our post where we have this list view builder. We're gonna do a hard-coded count. In this case, we're gonna be doing an item count of 20, and then we're going to be returning a comment view. So this is gonna essentially be like the cell that's gonna represent each comment. Now the comment view is going to look extremely similar to the avatar row where we built out the UI of the avatar. So we're going to have a very similar circular avatar right here. And that's what this is doing right here. And then we have the actual text that's next to it. So we have the user's avatar and then their comment right next to the picture. So that's what we're going to do for this one right here. And next, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're going to be having this comments list view be the body of our scaffold. So let's add that. There we go. So now we have our comments list view right here as the body for the comments view. We're essentially ready to start showing this comments view. So now we can head back over to the home navigator. Actually, we're going to go to the home navigator right here, and instead of showing this text, we're going to be showing the comments view. All right, our home navigator is all set up and ready to start displaying different screens based off of the state of the home navigator qubit. All that's left to do is make sure that we are updating the home navigator state or the home navigator qubit with the correct state whenever we tap in on one of these buttons, the first one being the comments and the other one being the avatar. So let's head back over to the home view and we'll just start from the top. Let's do the avatar first. So we go over to the avatar author or the post author row. We look into the avatar UI and what we're going to do is we're actually going to wrap this entire row in a gesture detector. This way, if the user taps on the avatar or the username, then they will be directed to the profile. All right, so the post author row is essentially wrapped in a gesture detector. And now what we want to do is we want to have access to the specific qubit, the home navigator qubit, in order to update that state. So in order to do that, we're going to need to pass the context all the way down to this function, and we're going to have to update all the call sites. All right, so now I'm passing the context all the way from the build method all the way down. So we're passing it to the post list view, which is now taking in a build context. We're passing it to the post view, which is now taking in that build context. And from there, it's going into the post author row. From here, we can use the context to access the home navigator qubit. And there we go. So now whenever we tap on this author row, we're going to run the show profile, which will emit the profile state. We also need to update the view comments button, and that is done right here. And we just need to provide a build context here as well. And there we go. So now we are calling the show comments from the block provider right here whenever we tap on the post comments button. So let's go ahead and see if this actually works. Now keep in mind that the profile is designed to show the current user's profile if a user is not passed to it. And since we're not working with any live data, we're expecting that behavior. All right, there we go. And let's go ahead and tap it and see if we can get the profile to show. So we tap on this and bam, it goes over to the current user as expected. We'll fix that, the actual destination in the next video. And then it looks like we have run into an error. And the reason for that error is because our home navigator actually does not implement the onPop method. So let's go ahead and implement that now. And here we go. So our home navigator now has this navigator, which has the pages argument filled in and the onPop page argument filled in. And we're just going to simply make sure that we're going to update the state of our qubit so that it is set back to home. So we do that with show home, and then we do route.didPop and pass in the result like so. So let's go ahead and save that, restart the app, and let's see if everything works as expected. All right, there we go. So we built it, and now when I tap on the user, it goes over to my current user profile. I go back, and then we see that everything is working in terms of navigation. Let's try viewing the comments. We do view comments. It should move over to the comments view. Let's see. And here we go. So now we have the comments view pulled up, and we can see the avatar, and we can see the comment that is associated with that avatar right there. And we have 20 comments, so that's why there's a bunch of them. So that's all we're going to be covering in this video today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something new about building out the UI. In the next video, we're actually going to be designing our backend in terms of the data models that we're going to be working with, and we're going to handle working with real data for the app. So be sure to keep an eye out for that video. So thank you so much for your time, and go out there and keep coding passionately.